Good evening, Greg here. Burn at both ends. Burn on the back end of, what is it? It's Tuesday. It's been a long day. It's been a very exciting day, actually. So it is 11:47 p.m. Pacific. I gave a double finger point for no good reason. I just did it again. July 10th, 2018. So today I was at pretty much all day at Semicon West. And then I had my men's meeting, and then I went back to Semicon West for an evening event. Pretty cool event, and just awesome day. So started off early, got into San Francisco, kicked off. First interview was 9:15 in the morning, and even before that I had a quick call with the HBD project back at the company, and I accidentally, I don't think I got someone in trouble, but I had learned yesterday that one of my key lead techs is going on vacation starting on Saturday for 2.5 weeks. I didn't know that, and this is kind of critical. We're getting into the last 30 days before we do this big integration operation. That's going to take a few weeks, and I didn't know he was going on vacation, and I learned that just yesterday. And this morning I jumped on. I wanted to jump on the team call just to ask our leader who could backfill for this person. And that was my first question. And so I'm on the phone, and so I'm calling into a room full of people. I don't know how many are in there, but there can be anywhere from, at the low end, it could be 8 people. At the high end, it could be like 20 people. But my first question was, hey, with so-and-so being gone for 2.5 weeks, who can backfill? And evidently no one in the room knew that this guy was going on vacation. And I'm kind of curious as to how that could happen, how that can be approved. That's a decent, that's not just like one vacation day. He's literally gone for 10, 11, 12, I think 13 days, technically, 13 work days. So anyway, but after I hung up, I texted him. I said, I feel really bad about that, but I think everything was cool, but it's interesting how just an innocent question like that, because I was not at all trying to do anything devious. I was just being very straightforward. Just, hey, this guy's going to be gone for 2.5 weeks. Do we have anyone that can, take his place? And then once kind of the room calmed down about the fallout from that comment, I then asked if I could have his time 100% between now and the end of the week. And I have not heard back on that yet, so we'll see how that goes. But then anyway, so that was the beginning of the morning. Well, actually, the beginning of the morning as I was up, I did my post, made lunches for the kids, and then showered, and then got on BART, went into SF, and then on the walk to my first customer discovery interview, I jumped on this team call. And then so at Semicon West, it was just a whole day of nothing but customer discovery interviews, all part of this I-Core program that I'm involved in. This is this DOE-funded tech transfer training where we're learning about the lean startup model, learning about customer discovery, learning about the ecosystem, learning about the business model canvas, value props, customer segments, all these kinds of things. And so a lot of our potential customers and a lot of people in the ecosystem are at this conference. And so very cool to show up, and I was able to get the all-in pass, which is like the full pass, so I can go anywhere, which is really kind of interesting. Not interesting, but just I don't know, like you feel like a VIP, right? Because you can just go to anything that you need to go to, which makes it easy to talk to people. And so and I had a bunch of one-on-one interviews. One was scheduled, the rest were I just met people and talked to them. So it's really good, get me out of my comfort zone, get me approaching people, introducing myself, introducing what I'm doing, why I'm talking to them, getting really crafty on how to kind of pitch what we're doing, and I kind of knew that the people that I needed to talk to specifically were not going to be at this show, or most likely, and so it was more a matter of finding a salesperson that I could convince to connect me to that person kind of after the conference. But there were a few people that I did speak with, and let's see what else happened. Oh yeah, and then very awesome. There were a bunch of speakers, right? So this is a really big conference. So they have 2 enormous exhibition floors with all kinds of companies in the semiconductor fabrication space, and then they have all these little like micro talks They call them tech spots. And then they even have other like micro talks. I forget what those are called. And then they have like the big like keynote speaker, the big time people, CEOs of big companies talking. Like for example, the CEO of Applied Materials gave a talk. And then they have these like kind of breakout panels. This is all in the Yerba Buena Performance Center, I think it's called. It's I don't know. It's some big nice like theater like auditorium that's part of the Yerba Buena. It's hard to say. Yerba Buena Center. And so yeah, I heard the CEO of Applied Materials talk. There was a whole like several hour discussion about funding and VCs, and so there were some specific startups that had really kind of made it, and I guess they're not startups anymore. They're kind of one had IPO'd, so I would not call that a startup. The other was several years in, 8 years. I would not call that a startup, right? According to what we're learning with this lean startup model, a startup is a temporary organization, right? So if you're 10 years in and you're still a startup, either according to what I've learned, either you're confused and you're really a company, or something else weird is happening, right? But I heard a lot about funding, and a lot of these speakers were direct. What they were saying was directly related to what we're trying to do. Very, very on point. And you like, it's very fascinating. I heard like the same kind of basic foundational information from these speakers that I've been hearing from some of our customer discovery interviews, which is kind of the whole point of this. It's like once you get past a certain number of interviews, you start hearing the same thing over and over again, which validates that information, right? And so, and then some other things I did, something for me, like part of my personal growth is putting myself out there, right? Being bold, talking to people, especially some of these really high-level people. And so I approached several people today that are way above my pay grade, CEOs, VCs, and it worked out great. And what's really amazing is, I think it's just a head game for me. It's just in my head, I think that this person's so high level that they wouldn't want to talk to me. But that's not true at all. I mean, they're just people like I'm just a person, and they have feelings and they laugh and they, do things, and right, as the saying goes, right, they put their pants on the same way I do, one leg at a time. And what I find is that, they're happy to talk to you. They're, now unless you catch them at a bad time and they're in the middle of doing something, these people are extremely busy. Not that I'm not busy, but, and that's really kind of, for me personally, that's a very bold thing for me to do. Not that I'm a shy person, but, I'm working on my self-confidence. I'm working on putting myself out there, and this is something that I was intentionally doing. And what I find happens mentally is I'll see that person, and I'll know I should go up and talk to them. And when it works right, not when it works right, but when I do it, I just go right up and say something, right? I find that like when I hesitate and think a little bit, that kind of ruins it, and sometimes I'll back away. But today, even I caught myself doing that. Even when I was doing that, I still pushed through that little hesitation and talked to the person, and I kind of left no stone unturned as far as I could tell. During one of the tech spot talks, I asked a question, and that turned out to be a really good question because I found someone that is exactly who we want to talk to about some aspect of what we're doing. So I want to talk to this woman who owns her own company that really helps people like me do exactly what I wanted to do. And it was kind of funny because I asked my question because I came in late to this tech spot thing, and I had missed her talk. Right, it's something like 4 half-hour talks, and then at the end there's a half an hour where it's the panel, where all of them get back on stage and they're asked a bunch of questions. And it was during that panel thing that I asked this question, and it was kind of funny. She laughed. She's like, "Hey, I think you want to talk to me." And she's like, "Well, didn't you hear my talk?" And I was like, "No, I didn't hear your talk. Sorry, I came in late." But anyway, so she's like a perfect fit for what we're trying to do. And so just the act of being bold and going up there and asking a question turned out to have a great result. And then even on my walk, even after I left Semicon today and I was walking back to BART, I saw one of the VCs at, he was walking in the same direction, and we're both standing there at the traffic stop, or at the stoplight. And I just started talking to him. Hey, thanks a lot for being on the panel. I really enjoy what you said, blah, blah, blah. He loved hearing that. And then we got into a conversation. I ended up walking like 5 blocks in the wrong direction just to keep talking with him. But that's kind of how it goes. And he turned out to be so incredibly generous. And we all think of VCs as like these sharks and these kind of, really kind of nasty people that are just in it for the money and don't care about anyone. But he was so nice. And he even was like, hey, here's my card. Call me anytime. I'd love to help you out, because, I told him, what I was doing. And so, awesome connection. I'm totally going to talk to him. He lives in the Bay Area, so great connection. He's got a very small VC fund that he manages, and so would love to hear more about what he's doing. I think he would love to hear about what I'm doing. Turns out that he's a high-energy physicist. He's a double E high-energy physicist. He developed some really cool technology for like 20 years ago in the 90s for the semiconductor industry. So I think he's really going to enjoy not only talking to me about what I'm doing, because he's also very he's an entrepreneur, obviously. Maybe that's not obvious, but he is. But he's going to really love, I think, speaking to the technical folks on my team who are essentially high-energy physicists or accelerator physicists. So I think that's going to be a great connection there. I'll make a great connection with him, so we'll talk next week probably when he's back, kind of done with this conference. So, yeah, just very cool. I mean, I just, I found myself, like, as the day went, actually, the day started great. Even though there was a little hiccup with the HPD team meeting about calling that. I mean, I wasn't calling anyone out. I just mentioned out loud something that essentially no one else knew about the vacation. But the very first meeting was with a very high level, executive vice president of marketing and engineering of a very experienced large semiconductor company. And so that's where I started, and it was super cool. I felt like such a VIP. He invited me up to, his company rented a floor in a building adjacent to the conference, right, where they just have their own private meetings. And so he invited me up there, and so we went out in the balcony and we had our little interview. He had no problem with me recording the interview, which was awesome. And and he gave us some incredibly awesome, juicy details, like exactly what we were looking for. And I think I did a really good interview because, the interview was probably about 35 minutes or so, 30 minutes. I think he was talking for about 25 solid minutes. I was just kind of nodding and yesing and maybe asking a few kind of directional questions just to get, because we're looking right now for like market data, like price points, cost points. We're looking also for performance factors, like what our device, how it has to perform to, to get into their machine. Essentially, we want to make a small piece of a larger machine and sell it to those companies that make that larger machine. And I also got him to say, but sort of asked a question that revealed information about what's more important, cost or performance, which is a very important thing. And, in semiconductor, you have both. You have different things that the cost is more important, certain things that the performance is more important. And so it was very revealing, and he was so gracious. And so there will be follow-ups. I just remember now. I didn't mention this, but we want to take a trip to his facility and see some of these machines. So I'm gonna, in an email tomorrow, I'm gonna follow up with him and ask him if we can bust out there next week. Maybe I think that'd be really cool. Or maybe the following. I mean, it doesn't have to be next week, but the iCore program, essentially, we have this week, we have next week, and then the week after we're in Denver, and so that's kind of the end of it. Even though I think I can do a couple extra things after that. We have some extra money in our budget. So anyway, I will wrap there. Just a great day. I really have to say I love this style of work. Just walking around, meeting people, introducing myself. It's a little uncomfortable, but I kind of get into a rhythm. And I have to say, like I find I enjoy it. It gives me a lot of fulfillment, and therefore I'm good at it. And even though I don't have this solid technical background, around our technology. I can speak about it in a decent, to a decent level, but I really can't, speak really eloquently and in great detail about the technology, which is necessary sometimes. But also, I use it as an excuse. Oh, hey, I'm just, mechanical engineer, just joined the team. I don't really know so much about this technology, but blah 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 blah, right? That kind of a thing. So I use it to my advantage. And then also, even when I would approach companies that weren't in our specific space, I would ask them, if they had any marketing gurus that could talk to us about kind of what technologies are pulling all of us in a certain direction, because that's kind of how it works, right? You have semiconductor and you have these technologies, like think of like your iPhone and think things that chips are in. Think of things like artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, all these things that are growing and pulling products in their direction. Like, for example, think about one thing, like on our phones, right? We all have now 2 cameras on every phone, every tablet, right? My tablet here, my beautiful little Samsung, which I'm really enjoying this. 2 cameras on there, right? And if you notice, every year the cameras are getting crazier and crazier as far as pixel count, right? I think the front camera, the little tiny front camera on this, shoots in 1080 HD. That's crazy. I think on this is an iPhone 6s. I think this one is 720 HD. But still, that's insane. I think on the new iPhone 10, the back camera is like 12 megapixels. It's almost kind of getting a little bit out of control, because now you're taking a picture and it's like 8 megabytes. And so, you got people taking 5 pictures and emailing them, and they're emailing like a 40 megabyte email. Can certainly bog down an inbox, or at least bog down any data, especially if it's a phone. So, but these are first world problems that we're having. But anyway, so it's things like that pull technology. How many iPhones? Each has 2 cameras, and so now you have twice the number of cameras as iPhones being made, and so all those little pieces that are in each camera, right, just doubled, because now we need 2 cameras per phone, and then more and more people are getting these phones, and then Samsung's doing the same thing, and so is LG, and so is blah 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 blah. You can kind of see, so that pull is very important to understand. This is that customer's customer, and even customer's customer, just that whole value chain all the way down to me. Right, to me, I'm one buying this phone. I'm using the camera. I might make a decision on buying a phone because of the camera, or a tablet because of a certain specific thing in it that I'm going to leverage in some way. So much for a short post tonight. I was going to try and do a short post to get to bed, but I'm just really excited about this stuff. It's really interesting. It's fascinating to see it. And it's really interesting, like I find, like going to these conferences, if I go there with a real solid purpose, like today, I can just crush it. I can just crush the conference. I know where I'm going. I know who I want to talk to. I can just walk by. I can see a company I've never seen before, read their little blurb, and understand if I should approach them. I understand that maybe I need to do a couple skips and a hop, and a few hops, like for example, upstate New York is getting huge investments in setting up a semiconductor fab. You can check it out. Global Foundries is there. It used to be AMD, now it's Global Foundries. But a lot of big semiconductor fab companies are going to upstate New York. And we even heard from a little birdie that there's a little incentive for startups in upstate New York. That was the comment. It's like, well, are you guys going to spin out a company? Are you guys going to have a startup with this technology? If it's in upstate New York, that means something more important, or that there's some advantages to that. So anyway, I approached. There was a whole booth about upstate New York. Spoke to this lady, told her what I was doing. She introduced me to this other gentleman who was more appropriate to talk to. And I guess that was her job. Her job was to connect me with the right person within inside their booth, talk to him, and now he's going to introduce me to a fab manager of a company that is more appropriate for me to talk to based on our technology. So very cool stuff. Very cool the way, these conferences are just gold mines for this kind of information. So yeah, so this is all just about, this whole channel is about my experience as an aspiring entrepreneur, things I'm doing, the successes, the failures, the struggles, the wins, the everything in between. And so yeah, that's it. So if you like what you hear, subscribe, comment down below, tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to hear. Ask questions. I want to be of service big time. I really want to be of service. So ask me for some help. I'll do my best to help you. Oh, and I audio recorded a bunch of the talks today, so I'm going to figure out a way, not figure out, I mean, it's not rocket science. I'm going to post those. Those are just audios, but they definitely get the point across. And so a bunch of really good things there. So look for those. I'll try to bust those out this weekend. I just listened to the audios. They need a little bit of tweaking. I'd like to reduce the noise if I could, so I'm going to play with them a little bit. But I got some software to do that, so it should be no problem. And I'd say that's about it for tonight. So check out the description. There are some motivational links down below, things that have really inspired me. There's some great music down there. There's ends down there. There is the beat in the background is an Afro beat inspired by fellow Hoodie and Tony Allen. And it's a beat that I wrote. G Money's my alter ego. I write these drum beats. Check them out on SoundCloud. Hope you dig them. That'll be it for today. So get some good sleep. Wake up tomorrow. Light it up. Inspire folks. Do great things. And I will see you in the morning.